Go ahead.
Thank you, Jen. Ahead of the president's speech today, is there any context or data you can share about the holdouts, about people who are still not getting vaccinated or signing up to get vaccinated, so we can understand if the problem is access to the vaccine or hesitancy because they think it's unsafe?
Sure. Well, first let me say that what we've seen is that the more people who are vaccinated, and today he'll talk about the fact, but you are aware of this data, that 150 million people in this country now have had one dose, adults I should say, 105 million have had 2 doses. The more people who are vaccinated, the more confidence increases and the more people want to get vaccinated. That's not a surprise to us. That was what we anticipated and hoped for, given if your friend or your neighbor or somebody in your community is vaccinated, it gives you greater confidence about the efficacy of the vaccine, and maybe you see what the impact and the benefits are. We always expected, to be at this phase where once we reached that percentage approximately of people who were vaccinated, once we got to the point where it was no longer an issue of access to supply, because we have more than enough supply for the American public, that it would become more and more difficult to meet people where they are and to reach them. And the biggest factor we've seen consistently we always focus on confidence, of course, but even with confidence, the biggest challenge is access. And access can mean a lot of things. It can mean concern about safety, though we've seen improvements in confidence levels. It can also mean, where do you get a vaccine, which is why we've invested so heavily, and the president will talk about this today, in programs like our pharmacy program, mobile vaccine units, mass vaccination sites, partnering with primary care physicians, local doctors, et cetera, but also why we made the announcement last week about paid leave, so that people can take a day off of work and they don't have to worry about losing income. We were seeing that as a factor. So we're constantly evaluating how to make this easier and more accessible, but we knew we'd be at this point where it would become more difficult, and we've been preparing for that.
Thank you. And
go ahead.
I know you've seen the reports about the FDA approving the Pfizer vaccine for kids between the ages of 12 and 15.
Not yet.
Not yet, but is there anything you can tell us about how close they might be, and in the meantime, what the administration is doing to prepare so that those kids can get the shots right away?
Sure. Well, I can't get ahead of the FDA process, and certainly in part because we want to ensure people have confidence in the safety of vaccines when they make a decision. But I will say the president will talk a bit about what preparations we are making here to ensure that if a vaccine is approved, if the Pfizer vaccine is approved by the FDA or others in the future, that we make that accessible to additional younger populations.
And just one more on infrastructure.
Sure.
On Sunday, Ron Klain said that the White House had